That's a much different situation. When you go in and you get a license from the Department of Commerce or whomever you're getting that license from, DOD possibly, and then you're disclosing we are selling X, Y, and Z to those folks. That's a much different thing. The technology that was being sold or being pilfered and sold indirectly to the People's Republic of China was never disclosed, and the forms that we used, that the licenses that were obtained were false and not disclosed. Now, I will tell you that the United States does not sell every piece of AI equipment to anybody that wants it throughout the world. I can tell you that confidently, and that is why it's important to kind of pinpoint what feature of AI is being sold. So it's difficult to just say with a broad brush. Yes.
You're comfortable with that?
Oh, I'm not saying I'm comfortable with it. I'm saying that I don't know enough about the individual facts of that sale in order to give you a fulsome answer. And I don't want to mislead you and say, oh, I'm comfortable with this and I'm comfortable with that, when I'm not sure exactly what was being sold. Clearly, the authorities in the United States made a decision that whatever was sold was appropriate. Sir.
Can you give us some more details on the weapons that were actually trafficked? You said an AK-47 at one point, but
they were Glocks mostly. The vast majority of them were handguns. A Glock is a very, very desirable weapon, very expensive. It's one that is very desirable among organizations. There were AK-47s, AR-15s as well. Not as many as Glocks, but I would say, you know, if we look at the 100-plus breakdown, 75, maybe 80% are handguns, the rest are long guns.
What about this weapon that was used in that homicide that Corbin bought here in Tampa and used? Can you give me details on that particular weapon?
I think that was a handgun, was it not? Yeah, you know, Cheryl informs me it was a handgun.
Was Corbin the only individual in this organization purchasing firearms?
No, as I think I noted before, and if the other purchaser, the other supplier was Edward Noel. Those two were the ones that were involved in the purchase. And Santana was one of the individuals that was moving it up to Canada.
And do we know, do you guys have records since they were purchasing illegally about how many firearms are registered to each individual?
The breakdown of that number I don't have at this point. I would say that of the ones we have, for instance, the 100-plus that we named in indictment, the vast majority of those were made by Corbin purchases. That being said, Noel made purchases as well.
And were they legally being taken over the border, going through? I would figure they would have to claim that as they crossed into Canada. Were they doing it legally like that, or were they kind of smuggling it throughout, without going?
The indications are that they're smuggling it. They're engaging the activities of a federal firearms licensee, which they are not. They're trafficking in those firearms, and they're acting like a dealer. So, no, they were smuggling it into Canada.
Do you have details of the homicide itself? Who was killed? Who did the shooting?
I do not.
What happened?
With all due respect, I do not. I don't have the details on the Canadian homicide. Do you have? No.
And then can you just describe as best you can? You may not be able to do it all, but how you found this group? What sort of tip led you to them?
Well, it started with a particular homicide that we will look back at. Where this gun came from, what was going on. We had the multiple sales reports coming in, and it took some time to piece together who was involved in this. Then, of course, without going into operational details, there were search warrants that were executed on communication devices, which I'm sure you can imagine. We started to get some communication. It went from there. It wasn't something that just happened overnight. And throughout it all, we continued to stay in contact, on ATF, stay in contact with our friends in Canada to get the additional information and other weaponry. So this was all going on at the same time, but it did take a significant amount of time. It's in fact a couple of years.
In the U.S., would these guns have been worth much less than they are in Canada, just given the difference in availability of firearms?
Well, I mean, if you can purchase a weapon and go into a federal firearms licensee and buy a Glock, you can get it for significantly less than what $5,000 as it's being sold in Canada. I'm not really conversant on what the pricing is for all Glock weaponry. I know there is a scale depending on the caliber, but yeah, they made significant amount of money to doing it up there, which is the reason why they were doing it.
What did Mr. Corbin do before he got involved?
That's a good question.
Was this all he was doing?
He had
Anything like that?
well, he had no visible means of support, is what I can tell you.
Do you have any sense of how these 5 folks came together and started working together?
No, well, part of that is operational at this point, and I just can't get into how they became associates. I can just tell you they were.
And just this is also just kind of a clarifying question. You say these crimes happened between October of 23 and June of 24. Can you explain kind of why the indictment took an additional like 13 months? Was that because arrests were beginning to be made in June of 24? Why did they stop trafficking then?
Well, let me stop you right there. Number one, this investigation hasn't stopped, so I'm not saying they stopped prior to their arrest, but this is what our investigation developed, and the decision was made in conjunction with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms that this has to end, and we have to make an arrest and obviously take these people off the street from doing what they're doing.
Did you get a sense that they were on deal, that they knew that they were being investigated, or were there changes in their behavior or their activity?
I can't answer that question. I can't answer that question, and part of it is I just don't know. Anybody that's involved in a criminal organization who is careful is always changing their MO, and they're always changing how they're doing business. Now, I don't. That may just come from the fact that people are in that business and change because you don't want to have habits there that are being tracked by law enforcement, or whether or not they were onto something. We don't have any indications that they were all onto something right away.
Are they involved in trafficking guns that are winding up in the hands of criminals in the U.S.? Have they been linked to any local cases?
The only guns that we have found of the 29 that we've tracked back here are guns that were seized in Canada. That's not to say that they might not develop. I'm just telling you what we know right now. 29 were in crimes in Canada. That was seized by law enforcement in Canada.
Do you think that's just because it's more lucrative, just because they can get much more money for a gun in Canada than they could in the United States?
I don't know. I guess it's all about what the market can bear. If in fact you can go into a federal firearms licensee here and buy a Glock at significantly less, and it's a bit more difficult in Canada, that profit motive makes it incentivizes they're bringing those guns across the border for sale. That was the incentive.
Needing the money.
Well, of course. I mean, if you're buying a weapon, buying a handgun for $500 and you're selling it for $5,000, that's a significant markup. Any other questions, folks? Thank you very much. Have a good day. If we don't talk again, I think we probably will talk again. But if we don't, have a good holiday. Take care.